All right, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to today. I am James R. Basterd. We're discussing the Palworld lawsuit that is happening. This is a very interesting case because we discussed this back in January, or when did the game come out? A few months ago, early in 2024, we discussed the possibility of a lawsuit by Nintendo, and the two angles that we always discussed was copyright and trademark, possible infringements of either. And Nintendo pulled a very, very weird stunt by going for the patent angle of this. As of today, we have not seen the legal filings. We have not seen the court documents. We just have reports and statements regarding the filing of the lawsuit. We don't know what exactly is being sought. We don't know what exactly is going to happen. But here we go. We have this article from Reuters. Nintendo, Pokemon Company sue Palworld maker for patent infringement. September 19th, 2024. Nintendo and the Pokemon Company have filed a patent infringement lawsuit against the maker of survival adventure game Palworld. The company said on Thursday. We started so well, and then I had to choke on my own spit. Hi, YouTube. Yeah, there you go. The lawsuit, filed with the Tokyo District Court on Wednesday, seeks an injunction and compensation for damages on the grounds that the game, made by Tokyo-based Pocketpair Incorporated, infringes multiple patent rights. Palworld, dubbed Pokemon with Guns, became a breakout hit following its release in mid-January. In the game, players can use guns to capture and train cute creatures known as pals. Pocketpair said it received notice of a patent infringement lawsuit on Wednesday, but is unaware on the specific patents it is being accused of infringing upon. The company will begin appropriate legal proceedings and investigations into the claims, it said in a statement. Quote, "It is truly unfortunate that we will be forced to allocate significant time to matters unrelated to game development due to this lawsuit," the company said. The Pokemon Company said in January it would investigate and take action over any infringement of intellectual property rights. Pocketpair in July announced it would partner with Sony to promote the licensing of Palworld globally. So this is our basic gist of the story. As I said, we discussed back in January, when the game came out, I think it was January, that Nintendo would be suing. But here is a very interesting bit about this lawsuit. One, timing. Nintendo waited all of this time for Palworld to do what? The current hypothesis is to make money, so that Nintendo could get a chunk out of it. The interesting thing here is that Nintendo usually just sends out the cease and desist and takes them to court over that to shut the project down. This time, according to this article, they are not looking to just shut down the game. They want an injunction and compensation for damages. So I guess the injunction would be to shut the project down. Considering they have a patent on Pokeballs, I'm inclined to think they are patent trolling. Yeah, shout out to Captain Corgi. I was watching his channel and he went through all the patents, and that is the patent that seems to be the one in question, because there are other games that he went through that have catching, like monster catching elements and mechanics, and they all use anything except for balls or spheres. And in the case of Palworld, they're called spheres and they're not balls. They're like, they're as much as round as an American football. They are not balls. Like, they're not entirely balls. They are spheric, and then they have the two bits at the end, so they're not entirely balls. So I guess they could go for that legal angle, that it's not exactly patent infringement because it's not using the exact balls. I do remember that, phrasing of course, I do remember that at the start of the year, Pocketpair did say that they did thorough legal research to make sure that they could get away with this. I guess this could be an oversight where they overlooked patents. It is possible. Patents are also good for 20 years. Pokemon Red and Green released in 1996, and Captain Corgi did cover this, so shout out to him. That Nintendo did file them again, and they continuously file for these patents. So they filed the initial patent in 1996, and they've been continuously filing newer patents under different names to make sure that they keep the control of the patent. So this is the story. Let's check Nintendo's statement. So September 19th, 2024, to whom it may concern, the Pokemon Company and Nintendo Co. Ltd. filing lawsuit for infringement of patent rights against Pocketpair Incorporated. Nintendo Co. and all the people involved, together with the Pokemon Company, filed a patent infringement lawsuit in the Tokyo District Court against Pocketpair Inc. On September 18th, 2024. This lawsuit seeks an injunction against infringement, I thought it was spelled weirdly, and compensation for damages on the grounds that Palworld, a game developed and released by the defendant, infringes multiple patent rights. Nintendo will continue to take necessary actions against any infringement of its intellectual property rights. Let me say that again. Nintendo will continue to take necessary actions against any infringement of its intellectual property rights, including the Nintendo brand itself, to protect the intellectual properties it has worked hard to establish over the years. Why are they not filing on copyright or trademark? It's very simple. They're not filing on copyright or trademark because they have no grounds under copyright or trademark. Everything they have done is legally distinct. So I'm pretty sure one of the most likely possibilities here is that they have spent the last, 9 months having their lawyers working overtime to find anything that they can sue Pocketpair for. So it could be genuinely that this is how long it took the lawyers to find something that could give them a legitimate case. And it took them down to patent trolling, to what essentially boils down to patent trolling. But what? Pokeballs. Yes, because the Pokeballs, so let's see, Pokeballs and Pal Spheres. So here we have the concept of a Pal Sphere, and here we have the concept of a Pokeball. Shit, they're showing on my side of the screen. How do I move them from one side to the other? Anyway, we can see here the concept of the Pal Sphere, but as I said, these are not entirely round. These are not entirely spheres. They have the ends. So these are more, what's the name of the, like, American football thing? What do you call it? I don't know how you call it because I don't watch the sport. But these are not balls. These are spheres with decorations on top, but the entire shape is closer to a diamond shape, you know? An oblong? Yeah, I guess an oblong? I guess. 3 patents which are very broad. Oh, thank you. Yes, so let me copy the link to the image. Yes, I think those are the same that Captain Corgi went through. I just have to do this manually because my default browser is Brave and not Opera. So if I click on the link, if I click on open link, it will just take me to Brave and the 300 tabs that I have open there. So different design, different mechanic, just because they are spherical and also thrown to trap pals, because the essence of it is a sphere, but the entire shape of it is not. And a big difference that you just pointed out is the mechanics are different. In Palworld, you are shown flat out the percentage chance of you catching the pal. In Pokemon, it's based on the Pokemon's health directly, and then you have to take your chances. In Palworld, it's also level based. So we have the different PAL spheres, the basic, mega, giga, hyper, ultra, and legendary spheres, which are used to capture PALs of different levels. Mechanically, this is very different than Pokemon, because in Pokemon, you can technically catch any Pokemon with a regular Pokeball. So the whole thing is hinging on what I would assume is a stretch. So it's a technical definition, and don't forget that in the world of law, being technically correct is the only kind of correct. So prolate spheroid, which is an elongated sphere. There you go, Infinite Null. Thank you very much for the clarification there. Thank you, and welcome to today. We're recording this right now. Even the mounting, everything about these is different, but let's read the patents that were provided to us. So number one, we have non-transitory computer-readable storage medium having stored therein game program, game system, information processing apparatus, and information processing method. That is one hell of a name for a patent. And again, these are very broad patents, and these are the speculated patents that people believe are the ones that Nintendo is using to base their legal case for. So, the abstract for this patent. In an example of a game program, a ground boarding target object or an air boarding target object is selected by a selection operation, and a player character is caused to board the selected boarding target object. If the player character aboard the air boarding target object moves towards the ground, the player character is automatically changed to the state where the player character is aboard the ground boarding target object and brought into the state where the player character can move on the ground. This seems my understanding here is that this is a transitory mechanic. So is this talking about calling a creature into the overworld? I think this sounds like mounts. Yes, I would say that this sounds like something you would do for mounts, especially for flying mounts. In my opinion, this would be for when you're in Pokemon and you are using the fly ability from one of the Pokemons to fast travel. That is one of the applications I would guess for this, and another one would be just getting on a mount now that we are in the newer generations of Pokemon. Say the last Pokemon game I actually played is Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu. Let's Go Pikachu is the one that I had. And you get on a flying Pokemon, you get on your Charizard, and now you're in the overworld. You're no longer on the ground, you're transitioning from ground movement to flight movement, and that is the patent over here. That's my understanding reading this abstract. I know that there's a lot more that goes into this patent. I don't see how Nintendo would have a case for this without having to sue literally 80% of the MMOs out there, and Ark Survival Evolved, and a solid 60% of survival games out there, and Arma, and all of these different things. Nintendo would be putting, if this is the patent they're going with, Nintendo would be putting themselves in a horrible position. So this one I think is kind of weak, but let's check out the other ones. Let's see. What is on a special interaction during creature being in an active state? Yeah. This sounds like they are trying to copyright something that by definition is not copyrightable. You cannot copyright mechanic. You cannot patent a mechanic. That is wrong. You can copyright code. You can copyright design. Patents, on the other, have to be very specific. And yes, you have to be able to patent a very specific mechanic. For example, Warner Brothers owns the patent for Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War's Nemesis system. That specific design of the Nemesis system, where you get the grunts slowly being promoted or demoted, converted to you and everything, and becoming rivals with one another, the random selection of everything, that specific design is owned by Warner Brothers, and nobody else can use it. So you cannot patent a phone, you can patent a model for a phone. Exactly. And I think this is something that has evolved over time with patent and patent trolls. And I think Nintendo is playing a very dangerous game here. So I would discard this patent as the one. Because this is way too broad, way too vague, and this one would have to apply to so many other games that people would see that this would be a malicious lawsuit against Palworld. Because if this were true, Nintendo would have to sue every game with mounts for this. At least this is my understanding for this, all right? Next patent. Game system, game processing method, storage medium having stored therein game program, game apparatus, and game controller. Abstract. Based on first data transmitted from a game controller, a game apparatus executes game processing for catching a predetermined game character and transmits to the game controller second data corresponding to the game character as a target to be caught. Based on the transmitted second data, the game controller outputs a sound corresponding to the caught game character. This one, I would say, it was made for the Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee controller. Because they have the little Pokeball, not the clicks for catching. This is for the specific Pokeball controller that came with the Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu that you could throw, and the Pokeball moves and vibrates and makes the Pokemon catching sound with its own speakers. That's where I think this is going, because that's the first thing that came to my mind. Because Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee had Pokeball controller. Because we have the Pokeball controller, the Pokeball Plus, this little apparatus right here. Yes, I know you do, but I'm illustrating it anyway, for those who might not. So this one was sold primarily with Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu, and there have been other variations since, I assume. It's a very cute controller, very, very telling of the simple nature of old school Pokemon, because this is the joystick, and this up here is A. And I think there was one more button for pausing. And that's it. And that was basically it. So yeah, the controller would react when you caught a Pokemon. So you would set your Nintendo Switch in front of you, or you would be playing on the TV, and then you would throw the Pokeball when it came time to actually catch the Pokemon. A very cool mechanic, and that is what I believe this patent was done for, because the patent was filed and the date of the patent was for around the time that Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee came out. So these patents were mentioned, not provided by Nintendo itself. Yeah, like these are some of the patents that people have dug up that might make sense. So we have one more example. So I would not do this one, because this one explicitly mentions data transmitted from the game to a game controller, which Palworld does not do. I don't think Palworld even has a controller vibration function built into the game, because it's not built with controllers in mind in general. So this one, I would say, is Palworld doesn't vibrate. No, exactly. So I would say this one is probably the weakest. I thought it was going to be this one, but this one is definitely the weakest, because this one is extremely specific to the Pokeball Plus controller. Fair enough. Oh, and it comes with a Pokeball case. Okay, so yeah, I think this one we can safely discard. And let's see, this last one that and there are a bunch of other patents that people can go through. These are the three that I was given right now. If you want to see the in-depth dive into the patents, go check out Captain Corgi's video, because he went through all of them. Like, he actually took the time to go through all of them. So this last one is storage medium, storing game program, game system, game apparatus, and game processing method. Abstract. In a first mode, an aiming direction in a virtual space is determined based on a second operation input, and a player character is caused to launch in the aiming direction an item that affects a field character disposed on a field in the virtual space. Based on a third operation input in a second mode, the aiming direction is determined. Based on the second operation input, and the player character is caused to launch in the aiming direction a fighting character that fights based on the third operation input. So this one is for the action of summoning a Pokemon through a Pokeball. And this one, the filing date is 2nd May, August 2024, which is probably going to be for their next game. Keep in mind, they most likely, as I said, they continuously file patents for the same thing over and over. This was one of the things that Captain Corgi covered, that Chat pointed out in his stream, that a lot of companies like Nintendo will continuously file the same patent under different names over and over. So this one being filed on May 2nd of 2024, which is after Palworld was out, is, it would, if it's this one, it would very much throw out the lawsuit. Like, it would very much throw out the lawsuit, but the previous iteration of this patent would absolutely come in. You would just have to dig through whatever library of patents Nintendo has, which we are not going to do. So yeah, this one I think is probably going to be the closest one we have, especially if the previous one includes the aiming direction, because that is something you do in Palworld, that you aim and then you throw the Pal Sphere, sorry. So it's going to be either that or the design of the Pokeballs themselves that give Palworld, Pokemon, Nintendo the best case in a court of law. However, having waited for this long and having seen everything, it is not unreasonable to assume or believe or hypothesize that Nintendo is doing this for malicious reasons. They were waiting for the hype to die down, and they were waiting for Palworld to make money, because they're not only suing for the project to be closed, they're also suing for damages, which means they want a cut of the pie. I heard that Japan has this as well, but in the West, if it is found that you filed a lawsuit with malicious intent, the lawsuit gets thrown out. And this, to me, reeks of malice. This reeks of malice. Because unless, and to be fair, Nintendo put their lawyers to, okay, if they're, look at copyright. Is there anything in copyright? And then the lawyers would have to go through every single copyright law, every single copyright design, every single copyright filing that they've ever done to see if there's something there. That, I'm pretty sure, could easily take months. Then, do we have anything on trademark? Same thing. Do we have anything on patents? And as I said, Nintendo, like many of these big companies, files the same patents over and over again, meaning the lawyers most likely had to go with a fine-tooth comb through each and every one to try and find something that gives them a case. This is the only explanation that I can think of that is charitable towards Nintendo, that would give them a legitimate reason as to why they waited so long, well over half a year, to file their lawsuit. Because they did not have a case, they could not find a case, and they had to have their lawyers look for anything and everything, and the only thing they found was a patent infringement under some of their extremely vague patents. So this is going to be a very, very interesting case, and we have this article here, and I think they're just going to report on the same thing. We have Pocketpair's full statement over here. So let's get into this article in a second. Wait a minute. So if I make smoke on a smoke grenade an in-game entity, it would qualify here. And yes, Primal the Raptor, that's the idea here, that these patents are so broad and so vague. And the thing is, in this one, this patent specifically is for summoning a Pokemon to the direction in which you aim the Pokeball. That's the mechanic that is being covered in this one. So it's probably not. We are not entirely sure. So it's total bullshit. That's what some of these patents are, and it's what allows patent trolls to do their thing. But now we know, with this lawsuit, we know Pokemon Company, Nintendo, do not have a copyright case, do not have a trademark case, because in the order of priority, trademark first, copyright second, very distant third, patents. It's way too vague to get granted. It is not reasonable. But at the same time, this is patent law. Patent law is a little bit more tricky than copyright or trademark. There's a reason why patent trolls exist. So let's check out Palworld's Pocketpair's statement. So from IGN, for whatever their reporting is worth, at least they copy-pasted the statement. Palworld developer Pocketpair has responded to the Nintendo and the Pokemon Company's shock patent infringement lawsuit with a statement that says it's unaware which patent it's being accused of infringing. I'm pretty sure that's going to be released because Nintendo announced the filing, so now that needs to be processed by the courts, and then Pocketpair is going to get served, and then we're going to most likely know, unless Nintendo also filed for a gag order, in which case Pocketpair would be forbidden from commenting on any of the details of the lawsuit, including what the lawsuit is about. So unless Nintendo does something like that, and let's be fair, let's be honest here, it's not beneath Nintendo to do something like that, to completely silence the conversation in a lawsuit, which is probably the biggest lawsuit that Nintendo has been involved with in recent memory, regarding one of the biggest cases that we've seen, because somebody found a hole in the market that Nintendo was not filling and filled it. So we're going to have to wait and see. So this is going to give us a same thing as Reuters. Pocketpair said begrudgingly investigating patent infringement claims. Not begrudgingly. Begrudgingly, yes. But let's see the full statement. Pocketpair's statement in full. Regarding the lawsuit. Yesterday, a lawsuit was filed against our company for patent infringement. We have received notice of this lawsuit and will begin the appropriate legal proceedings and investigations into the claims of patent infringement. At this moment, we are unaware of the specific patents we are accused of infringing upon, and we have not been notified of such details. Sorry, I had to breathe in. Pocketpair is a small indie company based in Tokyo. True. Pocketpair is a small indie company based in Tokyo. Our goal as a company has always been to create fun games. We will continue to pursue this goal because we know that our games bring joy to millions of gamers around the world. Palworld was a surprise success this year, both for gamers and for us. We were blown away by the amazing response to the game and have been working hard to make it even better for our fans. We will continue improving Palworld and strive to create a game that our fans can be proud of. It is truly unfortunate that we will be forced to allocate significant time to matters unrelated to the game development due to this lawsuit. I added the word "the" there by accident. However, we will do our utmost for our fans, and to ensure that indie game developers are not hindered or discouraged from pursuing their creative ideas. We apologize to our fans and supporters for any worry or discomfort that this news has caused. As always, thank you for your continued support of Palworld and Pocketpair. This should have been plural, these news, because the news is plural, so these news. Anyway, that's that's just it. Okay, I'm not gonna read the rest of the IGN because IGN's reporting, they are game journalists. I just wanted to get the statement in full. So, Pocketpair is not aware. They have not been served. All we know is that Nintendo has filed the suit, which it is perfectly possible that the court might determine that there is no case preemptively. Very unlikely. Usually these things do go through. But there is a chance that the courts will see this and just say, what are you accusing them of? What is the problem here? There is no, you're claiming there's patent infringement. What about it, right? Like, this is way too vague. This is way too non-specific. You're making way too much of a stretch. This isn't even a technicality. This is flat out just a stretch. Because don't forget, as I said, in the world of law and lawfare, technically correct is the best and only kind of correct that matters. So we will have to wait and see. This is the situation as of right now. We don't know what is going to happen. We have to wait for the Japanese courts to process this whole thing. I think once Palworld and Pocketpair get served, we will know which patent they are accused of doing. And I believe, based on all the patent digging that I've been seeing throughout the past day and a half, it's going to be a stretch. It's going to be barely a technicality. I'm pretty sure that Nintendo's lawyers are competent enough to have brought a solid case. Like, it has to be a technicality, but it's a real technicality that they actually have standing on, etc., etc. Because the only two reasons why we would see this lawsuit come in that I can think of: number one, the lawyers found a case. They finally found, after 7, 8, 9 months, with a fine-tooth comb going word by word through every single patent and copyright and trademark that exists, that they finally found one that they can actually build a case around, and they did it. Or number two, which we cannot dismiss outright just because it's Nintendo, this is an executive decision made by the executives that they said, is it a stretch? I don't care. Just send it in. We want this shut down. We want our money, because they're gonna talk about this. They are gonna talk about the damages as our money. There's no way in hell they're not gonna talk about this as our money. Nintendo sees the success of Palworld as their own success, and they will want a cut of the pie. However, one thing I want to make clear, or one thing I do want to point out: if this lawsuit moves forward and Pocketpair decides to not settle out of court and fully embrace this and go balls to the wall with this and just face the wrath of Nintendo, regardless of whether they lose or not, Nintendo does not benefit from this, or at least they don't get a net benefit from this. This alone, I hope this brings the wrath of the Nintendo people, the disgruntled Pokemon players that we saw earlier in this year, when we were seeing the fears of Nintendo suing. We have people right here in this chat where you were saying that if Nintendo does this, I'm out. I'm not buying Pokemon ever again, out of principle. And just like that, there are going to be millions now, because the overlap between Palworld players and Pokemon players is massive. Massive. I think we did the numbers, and it was something ridiculous. Like, it was something ridiculous, because Palworld sold a ridiculous number of copies, almost as much as Nintendo has, or superseded Nintendo in several years. So the enthusiasm is there, and Palworld has been releasing updates. So there's that. Let me see. Probably searched for the strongest case, but still it might be a stretch. Yes. Nintendo is known for frivolous lawsuits where they sometimes don't have a proper case. So it's not impossible to do this without technicality to stand on. Yep. Jeppy, welcome to today, by the way. And yes, there's that. And in that case, if Palworld, because this is Lawfare. For those of you who don't know what Lawfare is, it's when a superior entity or an entity with more money bullies a smaller entity by simply filing lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. Because if I can't win the case against you, I can still drain your wallet from all the legal fees. However, this is an absolute outlier case because Pocketpair has made a lot of money. They became an overnight behemoth. They are one of the largest indie studios to ever exist, and it happened almost overnight. Like, we're talking, their growth dwarfs the growth of CD Projekt Red. Don't forget, CD Projekt Red used to be an indie studio. Witcher 3 is technically an indie game. And it saw the meteoric rise after how many games and the decades of work that CD Projekt Red put into Witcher 1 and 2. Like, they were an independent studio. So, and CDPR is still independent, but they became a publisher now. When they bought GOG, they became a publisher. Kind of how Blizzard did their thing. The Warcraft 1 and 2 and Warcraft 1 and 2 were an indie games. They bought GOG, so they are, and GOG falls under the CD Projekt Red company now. So that makes CD Projekt Red an indirect They were publishers before they became a game studio. Blizzard Interactive, the studio that released Warcraft 1, was a studio. It was when they bought, I don't remember the name of the developer that became Blizzard North, that did Diablo, that they became a studio. They were a self-published studio, which is an independent studio. That's an indie studio. Besides the point, I could be wrong. Let me know. And you're saying I'm wrong. I could be. But my understanding is that, at least in the technical sense, where an indie studio is a studio that does not have a publisher, that a self-published studio. So, yes. But I wanted to finish my point here. I want Pocketpair. I hope Pocketpair takes Nintendo to court over this, because Pocketpair. How many Palworld units sold? Global unit sales 2024. Shut up. Combined 25 million units on PC gaming platforms, Steam, and Xbox as of February 22nd, 2024. Let's do a quick quick math here. Because we're talking, the game is what, $40, $50? Let's call it an average of $30. $30 times 25. That is $750 million. For a studio of less than 100 people. They might have the money to fight Nintendo over this. Because right now we're going like on a medium estimate. They made $750 million. Let's take Steam's cut and everything, because let's say Steam's and the other stores take an average of 30%. So times 0.7, that is still $525 million at the least that Pocketpair has netted over this. I guess after taxes, I don't know how high Japanese sales tax is, but let's say, just to be completely conservative, it's $125 million out of these. They have $400 million. Monthly costs and everything, that's not going to amount to that much. Like, I'm estimating a couple $100,000 per month. Like, don't forget, server maintenance and all these things, I don't know how big their team is, but I am estimating that they might be in the mid six figures. So expenses, let's put another estimate, $50 million for the expenses that they're going to have for the next 2 years of the game. That leaves them with $350 million to use for lawyers. An incredible lawyer might charge you something like $150,000 an hour. So let's divide this by 150,000. That's 2,300 hours of lawyer time that you can get for like the best fucking firms that you can find in the market and everything. Like, we're talking Better Call Saul kind of thing. That's 100 days. It's not too much. And don't forget, this is 100 days of continuous work. Lawyers don't work in continuous days. Lawyers bill you for 8-hour days. Most likely. Like, they will work 8 hours and that's it, unless you're in Japan, which might be more. But usually it depends on the contract. Point is, Palworld Pocketpair is probably the first studio in recent memory that will be able to stand up against Nintendo. And don't forget, this is based off of the sales. Best lawyers work 25 hours a day per client. I know, right? And don't forget, this is based off of the February 2024 sales numbers. This has most likely gone up because these are sales from a month and a half. These have most likely gone up since. And if Palworld, if it turns out that it is a frivolous lawsuit and that this is just one of Nintendo's bullying tactics trying to silence this, the money's going to triple, quadruple, quintuple from the community. Like, we're going to see the entire gaming community. This is what I think would happen. if it turns out that it's a bullshit patent, that it turns out that it was the patent about getting on mounts that Nintendo's filing over, the ARC community, the MMO community, even the like Arma community, the shooters, all of these who, if I get on the thing and it flies, therefore we're at risk to being sued by Nintendo for damages and injunction. I'm gonna buy a deluxe version of Palworld to help them with their legal costs. How many millions of people do you think that would happen? What do you think would happen if the World of Warcraft people get pissed off about this? Because they think Nintendo might be coming up for us next. Or just out of principle. What do you think happens? There is no scenario. Nintendo filing this lawsuit is probably the worst thing Nintendo could have done. Nintendo does not get to benefit. Nintendo does not get a net positive out of this. There is no scenario that I can think of where Nintendo gets a net positive out of this. Either they're going to lose a lot of money, they're going to lose a lot of fans, they're going to lose a lot of the goodwill of some of their longest standing fans, because a lot of their longest standing fans have been asking for an ARC style video game, for an RPG of sorts, and Nintendo has continued to ignore people being very comfortable in the position that they're in when it comes to Pokemon, and other games as well, but right now we're talking Pokemon. They're going to lose a lot of people with this. They're going to lose a lot of fans from this. And those are the fans that have money. They're going to lose a lot. They might keep, they're most likely going to keep like these suburban moms that just buy the latest Pokemon for their like kid. It's kid-friendly game. Kid likes it, like little Steven likes Pokemon. I'm just going to go to the GameStop and ask for the latest Pokemon because, kid wants it for Christmas. So, he gets it for his Switch or whatever. But that's no longer the bulk of Nintendo's target audience for when it comes to Pokemon. And they know it. Whoever made the decision to file this lawsuit made a massive mistake, in my opinion. This is a very, very grave mistake. Let me see, what do you say? They usually have multiple lawyers working at the same time, probably a team of 10 to 20 lawyers, plus paralegals. Most expensive lawyers, according to Google, are roughly $30,000 per hour. At most, they will pay $30,000 per hour for the entire team. So if we bring back our calculator, because we estimated... I didn't want to search for calculator on Bing. I wanted my calculator app. Jesus. So we estimated $350 million divided by $30,000. That is 1,666 lawyer hours for the best lawyers that Google can find, apparently, for the entire team of lawyers. Let's divide that by 8, or let's multiply that. Fuck off. 11,666 times 8. No, divided by 8. Hang on. How do I... So it was divided. Okay. I keep typing 1 0 less than what I need. That is 1,458 work days that they can get out of this. Divide by 3. Why? This is about 1,500. That's several years. That's the entire case. That's the entire case. That's the duration of the entire case. That they can pay for the lawyers day in and day out, 7 days a week for the legal expenses for work days. Bringing things in 24 hours might be too frustrated right now to do math. I know. So yeah, I mean, days have 24 hours, but work days usually are 8 hours. Unless Japan does it differently, but there you go. Let's see. Nintendo will sue any franchise with unicorns because it infringes the copyright of Rapidash. Yeah, exactly. And don't forget, we are not talking copyright. We're talking patent. And patent law is very, very tricky. And patent trolls are despised universally and always have. I literally was on the way to GameStop to buy a Switch when I heard Nintendo was suing Palworld and decided to go to the Five Guys across the street and get a burger instead. Potato! Welcome to today. Yeah, nice. Yeah, like, it is exactly what I'm talking about. Nintendo has shown, I think this is a mask-off moment. They have fully taken off the mask and shown that they are no longer that magical company they once were that would make these incredibly and wonderful games that would catch the hearts and minds of so many people. They have shown that they are not acting in good faith, that they are bullies, and that they have survived way too long. And this time they ran into somebody they can't just stomp on. Because they found themselves facing a newfound behemoth. Because it's not going to be just Pocketpair. Especially, consider this, Pocketpair partnered with Sony for Palworld. Because Sony likely saw this Palworld thing, and they thought, let's do this. We get our competition for Nintendo. We finally get an IP that we can rival Nintendo with. So imagine this. It is entirely possible that Sony will say, in solidarity with Palworld and in the best interest to our partnership, we are backing Palworld's and Pocketpair's legal team in their defense against Nintendo. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what happens with that? And it is not impossible. We read here that Pocketpair partnered with Sony for the development of Palworld, for the license and the IP of Palworld. Because Sony has been trying to find a Nintendo rival for so long, ever since Little Big Planet. Sony has been struggling to find something. And with Palworld and what's the other one? The Astro something. I don't know the name of the game. I don't keep up with Sony. But Sony is the other Japanese behemoth. And Nintendo just got in their way of their next big project. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. This, I think, is one of the biggest points over here. That Sony might get involved. It's not impossible. Especially if it comes out that the lawsuit is based on frivolous grounds. I kind of want to see that now. You know, seeing Sony saying that they're going to fully back, like they're going to put their lawyers at work to help defend Palworld. They're going to offer their legal services because they want to protect their new moneymaker. It's not unreasonable. It's not impossible for it to happen. Is it likely? Probably not. Because Sony will just move on to something else. But I think this is way too big an opportunity for Sony. I think this could happen. We will have to wait and see. We will have to wait and see. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video because this has been going on for 48 minutes now. So, I'm going to end this video here. So, yeah, we were recording all along. So, yeah, do the things that you do on YouTube and let me know what you think if you're watching this on the YouTube instead. Let me stop the recording now.